Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. And this is officially the end of the season preview series here for 2021. We went over all 32 NHL teams, including the Winnipeg Jets, which we're going to do today. Make sure to check those out. We go over what they did this offseason, what they look like going into next year, and the big question, if they will make the Stanley Cup playoffs. So let's get right into the Winnipeg Jets. So looking at their top point producers last season, a lot of these guys are staying. That's the good news. A lot of their top guys from last year will be returning. Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers, Blake Wheeler, Andrew Kopp, Neil Pionk, Paul Stastny, Adam Lowry, Josh Morrissey, Pierre-Luc Dubois. All those guys will be returning to Winnipeg. But with that said, they did lose Mason Appleton, who put up 25 points last season. That is their biggest loss that they had this year. But we're going to be looking at what they did to replace some of these guys. So, looking at some of their additions and subtractions, they lost Mason Appleton to the expansion draft, and they lost Laurent Brossoit to the Vegas Golden Knights in free agency. It seems like the Winnipeg Jets are going in a different direction behind Connor Hellebuck, and we'll get to that. So, looking at some of the guys they added. Now, they didn't add a ton of guys. Big thing is their defense got better. We've always talked about the Jets need more defensemen. They need more defensemen. They need more defensemen. They were finally able to add some defensemen. Now, it may not be the top names that everybody was hoping, like a Matt Dumba or Rasmus Ristolainen, but they brought in some guys maybe cheaper that really are going to be worth their value. And that's really what you're looking at here. Unless you were really wanting to give up a first, 2 seconds, and this and that for Ristolainen, it's probably better that the Jets did what they did. And we'll get to that. So Riley Nash comes in through free agency. That was a nice addition. He's going to come in on your bottom six. He could jump into the middle six, maybe as a second liner with injuries and stuff, which was a little bit of an issue at points for the Jets last year. So Riley Nash, a guy they actually got in free agency. That's usually a little bit shocking. They don't usually win battles in free agency, but Riley Nash, maybe a lesser known player, and he's going to come in. He's had some success over the last couple of years. I expect him to be a nice addition there for the Jets, and adds a little bit of a guy that can also play center. I think that's another great thing that they have. He kind of replaces Mason Appleton. That's really what they're hoping for from Riley Nash. Now some defensemen. They bring in some defensemen, and that's really the key thing for them. Also, I want to add some of the guys they lost. They did lose Tucker Pullman and Derek Forbert. So those were some guys that left, but they replaced some of those guys. They bring in Brendan Dillon, who they acquired from the Washington Capitals for 2 second-round picks from the Caps. They also bring in Nate Schmidt, another former Washington Capital, but he came over from the Vancouver Canucks. He had a rough season in Vancouver last year. The Canucks are looking to move out cap space. It didn't seem like Nate Schmidt wanted to go to Winnipeg right away, but now he comes over, and he's going to probably play a pretty prolific role on this defense. So I like that add, and that's pretty much it. I mean, in terms of goaltending, they replaced Brossoit with internally, and we'll get to that. But other than that, really not too crazy of an offseason for the Jets, as you would probably expect. They kind of have their guys that they want, just adding around that. That's really what that was. And they want to add to the blue line, and I think they did a good job of that. All right, so let's look at their forward line. So starting with the top six, you got Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Blake Wheeler. That is not changing from last season. The second line, you got Pierre-Luc Dubois, Paul Stastny, and Nikolai Ehlers. So they figured if you can't choose between Stastny or Dubois as that second line center, why don't you just put both of them on the second line? And that seems to be what Daily Faceoff has done. So we'll see if that changes. Dubois maybe the second line center, Stastny third line center. That is up for debate. That could definitely change between now and the start of the regular season on when their opening night lineup comes out. So we'll see what happens there. The third line, you got in the bottom six now, Andrew Kopp, Adam Lowry, and Jason Harkins. All those guys were here last season and in different roles, maybe in a little bit more of a role this season, just to add some depth for maybe some of those top-end guys. The fourth line, you got Dominic Tony Nato, who was a former first-round pick of the Jets. You also have David Gustafson, who we saw a little bit last year, and Riley Nash, the newly acquired guy in free agency. Looking at some of the depth, that's where things get interesting with the Winnipeg Jets, because some of these guys you're seeing right now probably won't be in the starting night roster, especially in that bottom six. Looking at guys like Cole Perfetti, who was a first-round pick, an early first-round pick. You also have Luke Johnson, who is going to back to the University of Michigan. No, that is not the same Luke Johnson, is it? Christian Reichel. What happened with Christian Vesalainen? That's still on the table. I don't know what they're doing with him. So we're going to see some of that, little bit of shifting going on for the blue line. With that said, looking at their defense, Brendan Dillon and Neil Pionk is your new top defensive pairing. Josh Morrissey could end up still on that top pairing with Neil Pionk, but Pionk actually had a pretty good season last year. Let him continue to develop. I think he did really well. He didn't do that well the first year after the Trouba Pionk trade, but this year he may be the better defenseman than Jacob Trouba. And I know some Ranger fans might be annoyed with that, but I think the Jets are doing pretty well with that trade right now. So you got Pionk and Dillon. Second pair, you got Josh Morrissey and Nate Schmidt. I like that as well. That's interchangeable, though. I think Dillon and Morrissey on the left side are interchangeable. And then the third pairing, you have Logan Stanley and Dylan DeMello, which we're going to get to, but there is going to be a lot of changing and moving parts on that third pair, because when you look at the depth for that third pair, there's a decent amount of guys that can fill that role. You have guys in there, you're looking at Ville Heinola, Dylan Samberg, as well as not signed yet Sami Niku, who could still jump into that lineup as a defenseman. So you have a couple names there that could jump in, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what Kevin Cheveldayoff does at the end of the day with some of those depth defensemen for that third pair. They have no cap space left, so don't expect them to do anything crazy in that regard. And goaltending, it's Connor Hellebuyck and Eric Comrie, a name we've heard of before. So Eric Comrie will now be the backup, not the third goaltender, not the fourth goaltender, the second goaltender in line behind Connor Hellebuyck, with the departure of Laurent Brossoit. Brian Little is going to be on long-term injured reserve at the expected to be at the beginning of the season. He's on LTI, so they will have a little bit of money come off the books at the beginning of the season. You look at their draft picks; they have all their first-round picks for the next 3 years, but they don't have their second-round pick in 2022 or 2023. So they are lacking in that department just a little bit. So they've definitely given up some futures for now. And we'll see how that works out for them, because I don't know how good they are this year. But that's part of the equation now. The big question, are they going to be a playoff team here in 2022, going into the 2021-2022 season? I think they're going to be in the conversation. The problem is, I think there's just a lot of good teams ahead of them in that Central Division. I don't think it's going to be easy. Now, with that said, Connor Hellebuyck, a Vezina finalist, you could guarantee pretty much every year he's going to keep the Jets in that conversation. You've got I think it's going to be Colorado, and then you've got Chicago and Dallas, and then Winnipeg and St. Louis, and maybe Nashville if they aren't completely falling apart by the beginning of the season. Those are your three fringe teams that could jump into a wild card spot. And now you're playing with sticky territory, because you're talking about maybe teams in the Pacific Division that could be vying for those wild card spots. Teams like LA, Seattle, Calgary, maybe even Edmonton, depending on how things go there. So I don't think it's going to be an easy spot for the Winnipeg Jets. But if they are going to be a team that gets in, they could be better than Dallas. They could be better than Chicago. Some people may say they're the second best team in that division. And I'm going to go with the argument that they do get into the playoffs. I'm hedging my bets on that one, but I think they're a playoff team. I think they've made enough moves to that blue line where they are better. And I think Riley Nash, it may not be a long-term great replacement to Mason Appleton because of the age factor. Riley Nash is in his mid-30s, and Mason Appleton was in his mid to late 20s. But in terms of 1 year replacement, it works. And some of that depth is coming in. You were hoping to see Vesalainen maybe develop. That really hasn't worked. But I think some of the additions on the blue line have made them better. And like I said, you did lose Derek Forbert. You did lose Tucker Poolman. So you replaced those guys by giving up second-round picks. but I think they will be okay. I think they get into the postseason. Connor Hellebuyck's too good. Dubois, another full year there. He can kind of settle his feet into the sand and gravel and kind of just, get a little bit of stability and comfort. I think that will be a huge part of Dubois' success. And another year of Stastny being, a good player. You need to see these guys stay healthy. I think that's been one of the bigger issues. And as long as Blake Wheeler comes back, the captain comes back nice and healthy, I don't see too many issues in Winnipeg, and I think they get back to the postseason. So, with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you have the Winnipeg Jets as a playoff team in 2022, or do you have them missing the playoffs once again? Let me know your thoughts down below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.